I was brought up to believe that a person must be rescued when drowning, regardless of religion and nationality. Irena Sendler. From 1940 to the end of World War II in 1945, Irena Sendler took a stand against Nazi atrocities by creating ways for Jewish people, mainly children, to be transported from the Warsaw Ghetto in Poland to safe havens throughout the country, some as far as 200 miles away. Through an organization called Zagota, the children were smuggled out and given new Catholic identities. Because Irena took a stand against the Nazis and risked her own life, thousands of children bound for death survived the war, ensuring life for future generations. Irena Sendler was born into a Catholic family on February 15, 1910, in Warsaw, Poland, and grew up in Otwock, Poland. She was an only child and was raised by her father, who taught her to love and respect all people. When typhus broke out in Otwock in 1917, her father, a doctor, was the only doctor there to treat the Jewish community, but the disease infected and killed him when Irena was just 7. Then, in the 1930s, Irena attended the Warsaw University, where she was studying Polish literature. While she was in college, the Jewish people were sent to sit on a bench to be looked upon badly, also known as the ghetto bench system. But Irena, going against the system, also sat on the bench. When her professor told her to move, she would say, "I am Jewish today." This behavior of not following the Jewish segregation laws, dating back to the 1700s, got her suspended for 3 years. During that same time period, in the 1930s, Germany was suffering from an economic depression where millions of people were out of work. Many felt the economic, social, and political effect of the Treaty of Versailles that ended World War I, enacted in 1919, was to blame. When Adolf Hitler and his German Workers' Party rose to power, they promised to restore Germany to its rightful position as a world power. In 1933, the Nazi Party won 33% of the vote, and Hitler became chancellor. On September 15, 1935, Adolf Hitler took a stand and released the Nuremberg Laws, discriminating against Jewish citizens. Stripping the rights to marry and the rights to citizenship was the first step in Hitler's grand plan for annihilation of the Jewish race and other disaffected people in order to create a pure Aryan race. World War II officially began on September 1, 1939, when the German army invaded Poland. The Germans also burned buildings, destroyed monuments, and dismantled the thriving Jewish city of Warsaw. The Jews were forced by the Germans to create a 10-foot wall encircling the community. In Warsaw, before the war, there were over 350,000 Jews. Once the ghetto walls went up, they were forced to move in. Those in the ghetto lived on a barely subsistent diet. If the Jews hadn't already died from the poor conditions in the ghetto, the Nazis would transport them by train to an extermination camp 100 kilometers away called Treblinka. Every day, 2,000 Jews were taken from the Warsaw Ghetto to this camp.
At the beginning of the war, the German authorities in Warsaw set up social and welfare services to maintain sanitation and health in order to prevent a typhus epidemic, which could potentially turn people against them. Irena Sendler was a member of the welfare services. Irena was horrified as she would go out on her rounds and see a starving child lying there, so she knew she had to take a stand. Sendler knew she had to get at least the children to a safe environment. As a welfare worker, she went into the ghetto dressed as a nurse to help investigate an outbreak of typhus. While there, she smuggled in food, water, clothes, and other goods for the Jews. Then in August 1943, she joined the Polish resistance called Zagota, the Council for Aid to Polish Jews. Zagota, founded by Sofia Kozak-Zazuka and Wanda Karowska-Filipowicz, was organized to rescue and smuggle Jews out of Poland. As the head of the children's department, it was Irena's mission to smuggle out the innocent Jewish children of the German-occupied Warsaw Ghetto. She took a stand against the Germans as she secretly worked for the resistance organization, while working for Polish welfare. Sendler found smart ways for the children to escape without getting caught. Many children were smuggled out with the trash at night because the trash was often exported out of the city. There was a courthouse that had one side facing the ghetto and the other facing the non-Jewish community, where Irena slipped some children through with the help from the Zagoda's children's section. Outside of the ghetto, more problems were waiting for the children. Some people knew about them escaping and where they were going. The schmucks, or untrustworthy Poles, would beg the children for money by threatening to tell the police. The schmucks had notebooks where they would write people's names who they thought might be Jewish. The resistance knew they had to get a hold of these books, so they would kill the schmucks and take their books. Irena found safe houses and homes of Catholic families and orphanages that would take care of the children. Sendler's children were given fake birth names and birth certificates. Irena wanted the children to be able to know who they once were, so she wrote on pieces of paper every Catholic and Jewish name. This was very helpful because after the war, the children figured out who they once were and learned about who their family was. Many parents of the children had been killed by the end of the war, but there were a few families reunited because of what Irena had done to save their identity. William Donut, a child from Warsaw who was saved through Zagoda, was later reunited with his parents as a result of Irena's papers where she had recorded his Jewish identity. When he was 5 years old, he was smuggled out. He then lived with Maria and Stefan Magenheim. One of their neighbors found out that he was present and threatened to turn him in to the Gestapo. The Magenheims bribed the neighbor so he didn't turn the child in. He was then taken by Magda. The first night Magda took me to an empty apartment, tied 2 armchairs together, and made a bed for me, said William. At the end of the war, William was reunited with his parents. They moved to America and lived a normal life. Without Irena's stand of keeping William Donut's original name, he would have never gotten reunited with his family. One day in October 1943, Irena had been discovered. She was arrested by the Gestapo and taken to Pajak, a very harsh prison for resistance fighters. One day she suddenly saw that her name was on the extermination list at the prison, but in a bold move, a Zagoda worker tipped a guard, and he let Irena sneak out of the prison. After the war, she told to BBC News, "I still carry the marks on my body of what those German supermen did to me then. I was sentenced to death." Irena kept secretly helping children until the war ended in April 1945. Sendler saved more than 2,500 children and gave them new lives.
A tree was dedicated in Sendler's name called Irena Sendler's Tree in 1965 at Yad Vashem Museum in Israel. It wouldn't be until June 12, 1996 that she received another award, the Commander's Cross of the Order of Polonia Restituta in Poland. Her legacy was honored in the United States in 1999 when a group of teenagers created a National History Day project. Suddenly, Irena Sendler's heroism was recognized all over the world. She was celebrated by the performance of Life in a Jar, adapted from an award-winning book by Jack Mayer, written in 2011, that tours and celebrates her story. Irena Sendler died on May 12, 2008 in Warsaw, Poland. The story of her life was portrayed in 2009 in the TV movie The Courageous Heart of Irena Sendler. Irena Sendler, with the help of Zagoda, took a stand in the Holocaust, creating ways to smuggle children out of the Warsaw Ghetto, saving over 2,500 children's lives. She took a stand against the Nazis and risked her life for people she didn't know. Without her stand, many children would have died, and those families today would be changed forever. When the Nazis were trying to conquer the world, all she had was a kind heart for the innocent children. Many have recognized her as a hero, but Irena did not see herself as such. As she said, "Heroes do extraordinary things. What I did was not an extraordinary thing. It was normal." Yet without people like Irena Sendler in the world, many families and generations would be changed. She will forever be remembered for taking a stand in Poland's darkest hour.